Hey everyone, it's Justin here, Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being there for us since the beginning. And we are grateful to have you with us on this show. If you can do us a big favor and hit that subscribe button, give us the big thumbs up, like, follow, share. We would greatly appreciate it. Those are free to do, and we would, be greatly thankful if you could do that, as well as text or um, reach out to your followers, your networks, and let them know about the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. Either text them, send them an invite, chat them, and also follow us on all of our social media accounts. And we from time to time do TikTok lives, and if you're around when we are doing those, feel free to drop in on those. But the main thing is this show is helping people across the world. It's just an incredible feat, and we are proving it as an organization that really runs on a $0 budget uh, for our show, for our programming, for what we do. We've put our money where our mouth is. We achieved what nobody thought we could do, which was not only hit 300 total episodes at the end of calendar year 2025, but blow by that goal by over 100 plus episodes. And so we feel that we are putting in the work. We know we're putting in the work, not that we feel. We know we're putting in the work, and we know we're helping people. And the more people that you can help get in contact with us, is going to be more people that are going to be available to help spread the word and help us achieve our grand goal of helping at least 3 billion plus. That is right, helping at least 3 billion plus people across the world over the course of my lifetime and beyond. And we can't do that without you. And if you weren't with us, if you weren't watching and listening, we wouldn't have a show. So thank you for keep tuning in, episode out, watching, listening. Uh, Again, across the world, we explain that every show. Over 100 countries, territories, provinces, over 1,000 cities. Uh, that's we owe all that to you, our viewers, our listeners, and if you could help us out by sharing the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast, we'd greatly appreciate that. And we have nothing but love for everybody in the world. We realize there are political differences. There's differences of all sorts, but we're more about the people. We're more about the culture uh, than we are about the politics. Sometimes politics may play a role, may come into an episode or so, but we don't do that. We try not to do that on a regular basis. We try to remain grounded and based uh, in mental health, trauma recovery, uh, voices, right? So we're a voice for those who aren't able to share their voice, however that may be. And so while I'm articulating half decently, I have to say, half decently, uh, not everybody can, and not everybody can do artwork. Not everybody can do sign language, among all the other kind of voices that we can do. One of those is creating music, writing lyrics, writing, let's just say if you're in a guitar, a rock band, so you got your guitar, you may have a guitar or two, a lead singer who may be playing a guitar, maybe a bass player, a drummer, maybe some backup singers. Uh, that just gives you like the idea of what we're talking about. And we we have a lot of a lot of serious episodes. That's for sure, because life is full of uh, sometimes not the funnest topics to talk about. But this show is going to be a little bit funner, I think, because it's going to be we're going to be talking about music, and we're going to be talking about one of my favorite bands over the years, uh, and it the band. It's one of those things where you have kind of like your, I guess, I don't know, it's like your top bands, like your top musicians, artists that you listen to or you tend to gravitate towards. Uh, and then there's others that you still like, but for whatever reason, uh, you haven't attended a concert, haven't found found their music in a while, haven't heard it in a while. And one of the platforms that we do have that our show is on from the podcast, from the audio standpoint. They put on, well, a lot of people put on concerts and, big shows, big festivals, there's too many to name. But it's one of those festivals that I gotta say brought up the thought to do an episode on them. And while this is not all inclusive, I'm gonna try to hit the high points uh, with our show. And the band is a rock band, so again, they have guitarists, they have a lead singer, uh, they have a drummer, and anyways, so I'm talking about Aerosmith, and it also ties in, right? So from the voice standpoint, from the singing and the playing of the music, um, in concerts all across the world. I think they've been doing it so long, since before I was born, I think. Uh, and so not just the music side, but when we talk about, going through a lot of rough patches, a lot of bands usually do, and that there's usually a power struggle at some point. Maybe there's uh, some substances and things that come and go, and maybe rehab. And uh, again, I'm not saying every single band these things play a role in, uh, but from what I know, what I've read um, about Aerosmith, that it seems like they literally have, let's like, a lot of the elements. So Joe Perry, lead guitarist, Steven Tyler, they called them the Toxic Twins, as they were, starting to make it, I guess you could say, signing record deals and going on tours and lavish expenses. And we're not going to get into all that because there's a lot of uncensored things that I could really get into. Uh, but they were one of the first, I don't know if they weren't the first concert that I went to. Uh, they were one of like the first few grouping. Like if I don't know if I was a group, maybe because I would go to concerts quite a bit when I was growing up, and and I remember Aerosmith. I I don't even remember how many times I've seen them live play, but it's quite a few. Yeah, and so I'll just get right into it. It's one of the shows I was at is an outdoor show, and they Aerosmith they had basically two stages set up. So what we normally see now is the stage being extended one way or the other, or there's some kind of aerial maneuver that takes an artist from one area, let's say the main stage, to a second stage or a third stage. And and so I remember this clearly because I remember doing some research and trying to figure out like where to go when I got to the venue. So it was an outdoor venue, part of it's covered, so it's like an amphitheater. And I had lawn tickets, so the most inexpensive tickets. Uh, so I had lawn tickets, and I was doing some research, or I heard from somehow I came across some information that there was going to be a second stage set up for Aerosmith when they came to the amphitheater that was closest where I lived. And so in my mind, even at again, I don't even remember how old I was, 18, 19, 17. I, I don't I don't quite remember. Um, Obviously old enough to drive, but I was not consuming any alcohol or anything along those lines. So when I heard about that ahead of time, I automatically began to strategize. Like, okay, I'm gonna be on the lawn. There's gonna be a second stage. They're gonna come out. Aerosmith's gonna come out at some point and play at least a couple songs, I thought. And so when the day arrived, and everybody's lining up at the gates, ready to, the people with pavilion tickets are under the canopy that, most of theirs, I mean, some of theirs tickets are, pit tickets. So they're kind of like general admission for like a certain space. And I'd been to one or two shows like that. Uh, but anybody who's been to like an amphitheater type of concert, type of show, it's kind of the same setup on the lawn. And so people come with their blankets, if it's raining, everybody's got, their poncho, or if it's supposed to rain, and umbrellas if you're allowed there. There's different rules for, what you can bring in, what you can't. Some people I think could bring in chairs, and there's a whole host of things that you could and couldn't bring in. And it was, I would say, like an overcast day. So it wasn't raining. And so when I got in, went straight, I could see as you're kind of going down the hill on the lawn, I could see basically in line with the main stage, which is directly out onto the lawn. I saw this, second stage set up. Obviously, it wasn't as big as the main stage. And so I was like, this is it. And that's where I went. I got as close as I could to that second stage. And so there may have been probably one or two other bands that were playing ahead of time, usually depending on how big the artist is or the band is. They may have, one, two, three kind of opening bands, and and some might not. Some it, it it's it's the main band, and that's who you're there to see. And so I remember getting there, getting if I wasn't, I think I was like first on the fence to this to the second stage. So I I wish that I would have had we have these smart devices, smartphones, and we can video and we can take photos and do so many things so quickly. And that's one thing looking back. I wish I had access to that. Because as the bands started to come out and they would play their set, which means however many minutes they had. Some had 20 minutes to play, and I think there might have been one at 30, and maybe another one at like 40, and then it was ready for Aerosmith. And so I I enjoy their music. True rock band, very little auto tune if they have that, and I like a wide variety of music. But this is like a true the musician, they're playing the instruments, and Steven Tyler, he's singing, and the drum. I mean, everything is as as advertised. So as the time got closer, then there started to be more activity. The guitars started to be put on, their stands on the second stage, and you can kind of tell. Uh, it was getting, the time was getting closer, and uh, I may have been four, five, six songs that Aerosmith played. I had a hard time seeing because I was more set up standing for the second stage, and so I could. Then the second stage was raised up a bit, uh, so more people could see. Make that's just how it goes. It makes sense to do that. Uh, So as the time got closer, you get the sense people are, getting more crowded and like, oh my God, I think they're gonna come out and play a few songs, and then you saw, you know, uh, I guess the roadies, come and they have the set list, what songs they're gonna play when they come out, and they're taping them to the floor of the second stage, and it was just so exciting. And then lo and behold, then that moment came, and here they were, and I was maybe 10, 15 feet, if that, and that's even with the barrier. It's like I'm here, and like Steven Tyler's like right there, like, and Joe Perry and Joey Kramer and the rest of the band. And the one thing that caught me, because you don't know, or I didn't know after watching and seeing music videos, once MTV actually did play music videos, uh, and then seeing different award shows. These band members and these artists, they look just so much bigger than life. when you see them, they look so tall. And that was the first thing I noticed when Steven Tyler came out. Like at first I was, because the stage was pretty, I mean, compact because they have quite a few members of their band, and they were in a much smaller spot when they were on the second stage. And so once they started playing the music, and I wish I had what I ended up getting to stay, which I'll share here a little bit. Um, but anyway, so these are voices, right? So Joe Perry, when he's playing the guitar, he's doing the solo on like Love in an Elevator and Crying and all these ballads, Dream On, and I mean it's just incredible. I mean, to hear that, usually songs are, maybe a couple minutes long. I mean, there's four, five, six. I think Dream On might have been one of the longest ones. And I don't know if I think Dream On was one of the songs that they played on that second stage. Um, Try not to give a spoiler on what's to come, but so they come out and they start playing, and I'm looking around like for Steven Tyler on the stage because I, I up until then, everything I saw of him and the entire band, just everybody looked again larger than life, and which I think that's one of the Backstreet Boys, one of the songs they came out with, larger than life. And then when I ended up like spotting him, like I didn't re well, I did end up realizing at that point, but up until then, I was I saw like Joe Perry, and I was like, oh, he's like actually decently tall, and the others, and obviously the drummers, sitting behind the drum kit. And when I saw Steven Tyler, and this is coming from somebody that's 5'8", I'm 5'8", so he was a little bit shorter than what I expected, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. But every ounce of energy, the sound, uh, was just as advertised. When he has his spots in certain songs where he just takes it above the notch you think that a singer can take it. And really, it's just that's one of his signature things. And uh, that he's just an incredible artist, incredible singer. Uh, and and obviously back then versus now, they were much younger. I mean, moving around on stage, I mean, it was just incredible. So that was like one of the funnest shows that I went to because I was able to be that close to the artist. Because usually when you're in the lawn in an amphitheater setting, I mean, you're well off of where even like the pavilion seats start, and then you have sometimes a general admission, or they call like the pit area. There's general admission, and people are moving around. Sometimes they get in the mosh pit, and people get thrown around, and that while songs are playing. uh, but that was one of the funnest and one of the coolest because it was something I never saw before. And I realize now over the years, it's one of the closest I've ever been to, I don't know, it's like a rock star. Um, and so the reason why I said I think Dream On was one of the songs they played was so after the show was over, the roadies are basically tearing down the stage, right? Because they got another city to go to, maybe the next day or the day after, in a couple days. And so they got to get everything loaded on trucks and headed out to the next destination. And well, there were set lists with the songs that the Aerosmith was playing on that second stage. And I got one, so like because I was so close, like I was like, if they, untape one of the set lists, because there was multiple ones for the different members of the band. It's like I'm gonna try to get one of those, and I did. You asked me where it is today. I have no idea. I have no idea where it's at, and that I don't know if that would be a keepsake. I mean, I mean, for me, it would be a keepsake for sure. I mean, whether it's worth any money, I don't know, and I don't really care. If it was just one of those things that it was kind of like a scrapbook type of deal where, you're paging through like some, positive moments, and that was definitely one of them. And to this day, I don't know where it's at. Maybe one day I'll recover it. But for some reason, I think Dream On was one of the songs on there because there were other ones. I think it was. Doesn't matter. Fact of the matter is, Steven Tyler with his voice and his vocals, whether you like him, whether you don't like him, whether you like Aerosmith, you don't like him, they share their voice through music. Steven Tyler through singing, and he plays harmonica on Cryin and maybe a couple other songs. Joe Perry, just an insanely good guitar player. I mean, the solos, and I've never seen, Guns N' Roses and Slash play like his solo on November Rain and that. But that would be really, and probably Prince. I mean, Prince has passed on. Uh, but as I'm thinking, these are, they called them like the arena rock bands, back in the, because they would go and they would just pack arenas. And the very first time I saw Aerosmith was in an arena in a nearby local city. Uh, I Yeah, we can get into how it sounded. There's a lot of reverberation, a lot of echo, and it wasn't my most favorite Aerosmith. It was actually two the Aerosmith concerts. I've been through quite a few. The first one, when it was indoors and the echo, like I don't know if like the sound engineer, it just didn't sound like I thought it was gonna sound, and I was hoping it was going to sound like the at the day or at the time, like the CD. Um, that's just, I guess, whatever my expectation, and there's so many other variables when they're playing live. So there was that one, and then there was another Aerosmith concert that was actually at the same pavilion, the same amphitheater were the one with the second stage and the set list that I got a copy of. And I'm holding on dear life, for the rest of the show because people are just grabbing, right? It's a souvenir, and there's not very many of them, especially out on the lawn. Um, so uh, that second one, I wasn't a huge fan. was one where NFL football was kicking off. So like the first game of the season was on I think a Thursday, and the concert was on a Wednesday. And the only reason why I remember this is because of how upset I was. Uh, and I had lawn seats, or there aren't really seats unless you like sit on the ground. But when the band or the artist comes out, like you pretty much have to be standing to at least even see the screens that are up if they bring screens with them. Uh, Anyways, so the football kickoff, I mean, I knew that Aerosmith was going to be playing before the game started, so they were going to have like a tailgate mini concert where they're going to play like two or three songs, and so the day before having the show, I I guess I had and I had some intuition that the show wasn't gonna be as good. And I mean, so I mean that like kind of in two ways. Sometimes, right, with the different bands, like bands that have been around a long time, they have a lot of songs that they've written and played, over, jeez, 40 years, 45 years or so. I mean, there's a lot of songs, right? There's the popular ones where, for Aerosmith, there's I Don't Want to Miss a Thing, from, from the movie Armageddon. There's Cryin, there's Dream On, I Love an Elevator. There's one of the first crossovers with Run DMC and Walk This Way. Uh, Jude Looks Like a Lady, which through the reading that I've done over the years on the band, that song was written about one of Steven's near-death experiences with his one of his like his dealers that he was buying illegal substances from. Uh, so there's that. So there's you go to a show and you're expecting, at least for me, I'm expecting to hear like the best songs. Like, and even if I've heard them at like 10 other concerts, I don't care. I want to hear them again. And so that show, the day before the kickoff, NFL kickoff show that they were going to be doing, I knew that there'd be I knew the concert would be at least a little bit shorter because they were going to have to directly go straight to the site where they were going to be playing, and depending on what songs they were going to play, Steven Tyler has a pretty wide range of vocals, and I thought he might be saving because that was going to be a bigger audience. What I mean by that, not just the people that were there at the kickoff, the NFL kickoff, I'm calling it like the tailgate kickoff show. It was like two or three songs. And so I was upset because what ended up happening was the show was not they didn't play a lot of the hits for the time that they were there. And the show was, I mean, barely an hour, if I remember correctly. And this is at a time where they still had and as they do today, a huge catalog of songs. And there were some hits that they didn't play. I can't remember exactly which ones they didn't play. Uh, But I just remember being so upset. I paid for a lawn ticket. I guess I'd be more upset if I didn't have the money at the time, but if I would have had the money and I would have paid for a pavilion ticket, I would have been just as upset. I've been up more because I would have paid more money. And so they played a shorter set, and the songs were I felt they were poorly chosen, but that's just me giving my opinion. Uh, and so the audience, right? So the audience the next day wasn't just the audience that or the attendees, in the uh, tailgate lot where Aerosmith was playing before the first game of the season started. Uh, but there was a TV audience, so right, you're adding millions of people that are in the comfort of their own home or apartment or wherever they're watching it from. And so that vastly outweighed the amount of people that were at the concert the day before. So I was upset about that. So those were like the two ones, um, the two shows of theirs that I've been to over the years that, I mean, it's a business. So they realize that show that was the day before the NFL kickoff show they were going to be doing. They realized they were going to have many millions of eyes on them and ears, uh, not just the 10,000 or however many, what the capacity of the amphitheater where they were playing. Uh, but it doesn't take away from their artistic ability and the way the songs that they did play. Uh, it was almost kind of like because Joe Perry and the band are so good, the songs that they did play, even though they might not have been my favorite, I was hoping that they would cut the solos short so they would play songs that I wanted. But again, it's not about me. It's not about me. And so that's what I've learned over the years. Uh, and so the last time I saw them, it was probably hands down, probably like one of the even with the second stage, uh, one of the coolest things. So the Pro Football Hall of Fame in the United States, uh, they they go undergo different changes and upgrades, every year. And a few years prior to this time that I'm going to be referring to, there was a huge refurbishment going on at at where the NFL Hall of Fame game takes place in Canton, Ohio. And one of the things that the staff started to do was bring in usually a pretty big name or names of bands to come in and play a concert or two around the time of, the enshrinement of the new class of, the people that are going to be enshrined into NFL Hall of Fame that weekend. And the one year it was Aerosmith, and I I just couldn't believe it because I'm not going to go into part of it because uh, I'm a I'm still a believer in the city, and some things are going well, some things are, there's a water park that was supposed to be built, a year or two ago, and they have these ideas of things to do. But anyways, every year, I don't even know the actual year it was, but whatever year it was, I definitely got tickets. And my now wife and my brother-in-law and my sister. And so the four of us, we got tickets to go to the show. And it was like Aerosmith's literally playing in our pretty close to our backyard. Uh, and so we got tickets, and it was, and I had been to a lot of concerts, a lot of shows, big venues, small venues, uh, big bands, bands on the uptick, and still to this day, and we were probably, I don't know, maybe halfway, three-quarters of the way back on the floor, which was basically the field. They had the tarp, and they had covering over top of that. Um, but that show was it was awesome because number one, the proximity. Number two, who I got to go with, my wife, brother-in-law, my sister. Uh, Number three, as I refer back to when Aerosmith didn't play all this songs, they played a full set and they brought out every hit. I mean, I think up until that time, and then I mean I'm talking probably the 2010s. Yeah, it had to be. The 2010s. And so, each year it seemed like that Aerosmith was building, to their catalog. But up until then, I had seen Aerosmith, I mean, I want to say 10 times, but of all the times that I saw them, even with that second stage, I guess I didn't remember them playing so many of their hits and playing so long of a show where, let's just take I Don't Want to Miss a Thing from the Armageddon soundtrack, who Steven Tyler's daughter, Liv, is in the music video. And I believe she's also in the movie. She's not in the movie, she's definitely in the reason I don't remember is because it's a Tyler, like Liv Tyler, Steven Tyler. That's how I'm connecting that in my mind. I mean, there may have been, again, I'm talking, I had seen Aerosmith a lot. And that night at the uh, NFL Professional Hall of Fame, they call it, I think, the Concert for Legends now. They, Aerosmith, up until then, they may have played I Don't Want to Miss a Thing maybe two times. And so that's over a lot of concerts and a lot of years. And that was always one of those songs that I wanted to hear. Uh, some may say, well, it was from a movie, so yeah, they wrote it, but it was for a movie, and so it may or may not belong in their full repertoire of hits. But I go back to the concert where they cut short that they didn't play I Don't Want to Miss a Thing there, but I think they played it the next day, and I because obviously I watched, and I think they played it that football pregame show that they put on, and boy was I upset, and boy was I mad. But when they played it at that concert for Legends, with the people I was with, and again, the length of the show, all the hits, yeah, they added Joe Perry. He's also a great singer as well, and so he has his catalog of songs, and so it's really kind of cool because every show I've been at, usually, except maybe the one where they cut short, Steven Tyler, you're basically kind of just gives gives Joe the mic and lets Joe play his a few of his songs, and uh, so I find that a neat thing that he can, or that he does. But as I think about the people that have told me over the years and the different comments and different blogs and different articles that I've read over the years about I Don't Want to Miss a Thing being a movie song, uh and I go, okay, but I've also seen Rascal Flatts a few times, and there's a movie called Cars. uh that song, like, I want to ride it all night long. uh they play that song every single show that I saw since the movie was out. I'm pretty sure all the times I saw them, the movie, at least the first one was out, I think. But that's the kind of defense I pose to anybody that's like, well, with Aerosmith, that Armageddon song, that really, is should only be played in certain circumstances. If like the the songs from a certain movie are being played, and I come back with that and say, okay, well, and again, this show is much different than other ones we've had. This is obviously a way lighter of a show. So this should also show you that we're able to talk and share in these ways too, and it still relates to Voices for Voices because they're playing music, they're singing, they're using their voice. Joe Perry, most of the time, he's using his guitar as his voice, how he's expressing himself. Joey Kramer, the drummer, he's using the drum kit as his voice. He doesn't sing much, if at all. Maybe a song or two, maybe Mama can. Uh, but this all ties into Voices for Voices, and it took me seeing a an older Aerosmith show recently. Say, let's do a show on it. Let's talk about it because there's a lot of intricacies in it. And the other cool thing about when Aerosmith kind of came to the area was, so anybody knows what a writer is when it comes to like musicians and bands and artists. And basically what it is, it's a set of things that a band or an artist wants prior to a show. So they're coming to town. If a band's coming to town, they're gonna, depending on when they get there, and they'll have listed what kind of food they want, what kind of beverages they want, how many. I've seen writers where an artist has requested only blue M&Ms, or and so there's these lists, and for each of the shows, usually, that get some of them used to get posted. I don't know if people still post them anymore. Now that we're in the digital age, probably not, but I don't know. I can't say for sure. Uh, but in the Aerosmith example, the other part that made it really resonate with me was the rider that they had for the show at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the Concert for Legends. They were playing. One of the things that they asked for in their riders are suggestions, and I think menus for three local restaurants. So not, a national chain. Nothing against national chains, uh, but they have a lot more ways to drum up business than, a mom and pop shop. And I didn't know it until after the fact, but where I ended up getting engaged with my now wife, and one of the favorite places that I, ever since my parents took me there, whenever it was for the first time. And then as I started to grow up, and then ended up getting engaged there and having a relationship with, the owner, and then now it's been passed down to his son and wife, and uh, their business, their restaurant was one of the restaurants that Aerosmith picked for food for the band and the crew. Uh, and so I thought I was like, well, honestly, after the fact, found out about it. And I thought it was just so cool, so neat that, again, I wasn't there when they handed the food out. I didn't get a picture or an autograph. I didn't get any of that. But it was just cool to know that's something that maybe other bands do that too. I don't know. Um, but that really kind of, let's say, they put a cherry on top from like an all around. The the show was awesome. They played all the songs. They played I Don't Want to Miss a Thing, uh, of course. Yeah. And then obviously, like I said, who I was at the show with, it was cool. I think it may have been one of the only ones that the four of us were at. Or maybe we were at another one. I'm not remembering. I mean, there's been like local bands over the years. I think we may have seen a time or two, but nothing on this scale. And it was so fun, and so I thought I would incorporate Aerosmith. They're still one of my favorite bands, and I haven't probably heard them play in years. And then I come across them probably with some of the other bands and concerts that I have, watched over the years, or over the year or two, with the different TV streaming services that we have. And So it it's just so neat. And then to see how again this weaves right in the voices for voices and that on that stage, on the main stage, each member of the band, has their roles to play. And some crossover, like I said, where Joe Perry sings some, and Steven takes a little bit of a rest. Um, yeah, I I think it's been a little bit of a longer show than it's been an hour show. Wasn't Didn't know how long it was going to go, and I could definitely go into more detail maybe on another episode. We can do that. I just thought it was a good spot because sometimes we hear different feedback. If I decide to try to sing, which again, I'm not a singer by trade, and I'm not a great singer in general. Uh, Sometimes the songs I pick that I do decide to post for whatever reason have a different uh, not what I intend to like when I do it, I do because it's a song from a band that I watch and or listen to or both. And sometimes the songs are happy, sometimes they're not as happy, but it doesn't mean that I'm not happy. So we want to thank our new viewers, our new listeners. Please subscribe to the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. Give us the big thumbs up, like, follow, subscribe, share. Reach out to 25 or 50 of your closest friends, family members, colleagues. Let them know about the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. Uh, have them tune in. Again, we're over 400 episodes strong. In fact, I think this is either going to be 405 or I think 400 and episode 406. And uh, yeah, we're just doing it. We're doing the best we can. And we just are hoping to help people however we can. Sometimes, again, it's a small way, sometimes it's a big way. But we are just ecstatic to be able to be at this point where there's been enough interest for us to continue doing these shows because it helps me a lot out too. And with my mental health when I'm sharing, especially like this show, it's able to reminisce and it's just so neat to be able to do that. And we'll sprinkle in these shows as we continue, and maybe we'll add on to this particular show. Uh, I think we got a lot of what I wanted to share. Uh, so we thank you for joining us. We had nothing but love coming from us to you. Whether you're a believer or not, that doesn't matter. We're still going to pray for each and every one of you, for us, our families, for you, your families. And we look forward to seeing you, hearing from you on a future show. And we have a vast catalog. Uh, so there's no joke. I mean, you probably can find at this point 40 or 50 shows that really line up with the with what you like, with whether it's the guests or whether it's the topic or whether it's both. We have a pretty good feeling because it's happened to a lot of people. So thank you for joining us on this episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I'm Justin Allen Hayes. I've been your host and just so grateful to have you with us. And until next time, let's celebrate the voices of everybody. Everybody celebrates their voice in a different way as we uh, illustrated and symbolized tonight when we're filming this. And we just want to say, please be a voice for you or somebody in need. And we love you and hope you're having a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year. And we'll see you on a following episode of the show or an earlier episode of the show. So take care, everybody.